Welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is the next episode, the following episode of Walking on Eggshells, Living with a Monster. We are reading through Doug Benefield's deposition in the case of Florida versus Ashley Benefield. So, Ashley has been tried and convicted of homicide of her estranged husband. They were, I mean, it's questionable, were they or weren't they together? Friends of hers, people, witnesses for her said that she had no intention of getting back together with him, and others say that they were supposed to be getting back together and trying to, patch things up. However, they weren't living together. She was afraid of him. There were a lot of DV incidents. She was separated from him when she was pregnant because she was so ill. So she went to go live with her mother while he stayed in North Carolina. She was in Florida. And eventually, she had sent him an injunction saying, I'm afraid of you. I want to get custody of the baby. She eventually has the baby without telling Doug, and which, if she's truly afraid of Doug, I don't blame her, but a lot of people have an issue with that, which I get. If she wasn't afraid of Doug, not cool. But if she was and fearful for her life, her daughter's life, maybe she was trying to keep that a little bit separate from him since she felt he was unstable. So let's actually get back to the deposition. And we're going to pick up right where we left off in part one. So let me shrink myself. And here we are. We last left off with him talking about no, he absolutely does not have an anger issue, and he doesn't belong in any kind of anger class, even though he throws loaded guns at his wife and shoots the ceiling when he's having arguments. So he's not, doing things that people who without anger issues might do. So that's where we left off. All right. So the next question, remember, it is let's go back up for 1 second. So again, this is the deposition of Douglas Glass Benefield, and Melissa is the notary. Okay, so Mark Sessoms is the attorney appearing on behalf of the petitioner, which is Ashley Benefield. Then we have Stephanie L. Murphy, who is Doug, the respondent's attorney. And that's who's in the room. All right. And then the transcriber. All right. So this page, right where we left off from last time. Question: Sully's the dog? Yes. That's the dog that's in the picture in Exhibit 3, first page? Yes. You hit Sully that day. Sully is protective. He was under the table. My question is, did you hit Sully? Not why did you hit Sully? You could call it hit, yes. You called it hit? Yeah. He sprung up into it, I guess your lap, and I reacted and hit him? Wait, that's a question? So he sprung up into it, I guess your lap, and you reacted and hit him, it should be. He says, yeah. So when you say you could call it, you called it hit, correct? Yes. For lack of better words, yes. The dog sprung up into my lap, all instantaneously, trying to crawl up on my lap, sharp claws I've got on shorts, and how did you hit him? You don't remember. I don't remember exactly. This is, again, our dog is like, family, and I just wanted everything to stop, and I wanted him to stop, and he wouldn't. He would not stay under the table, and he wouldn't stop either, so you hit him, correct? Yes, I hit my dog. I'm just going to stop right there. Yes, I hit my dog. I mean, it took him a while to finally admit it, but he did. And you see how he, under pressure, started changing his answers? Like, well, at first he was just jumping in and it was just an accident. He instantaneously was jumping, he was scratching, blah, blah, blah. Now he's saying he just wanted it to stop. He wouldn't stay under the table, so he wanted the dog to stop. Wait, where did that come from now? The dog stop what? Like, his story's not adding up about the dog. Question. Because you wanted him to stop. I hit my dog to get him off of me. To stop? To stop. Just like you did Ashley, correct? I shot the gun out of frustration, but yes, it did make her stop, which she could have done any time. Okay. She could have stopped and avoided you discharging the gun, right? Again, he's not taking any responsibility about the fact that he shot it. He brought it into the house. He's the one that threw it at her or shot it in the room, and yet he's going to still claim like it was her fault because she just wouldn't stop. She could have stopped and avoided you discharging the gun, right? And she could have stopped anywhere and it never would have happened, like a normal human being. So she's not normal and she won't stop. Got it. She won't shut up and she's not a normal human being. So that gives you the right to maltreat her. Question. Do you agree that Ashley had a reason to be upset that day? Ashley had no excuse for the way she behaved. What was she doing other than talking? What did she do? I mean, he just wants her to shut up. That's why he did the things that he did. Unless he has another reason that comes out, but at this point in time, that's all he's told us. All right, Ashley had no excuse for the way she behaved. I've been around a lot of people and never have witnessed anybody that is that vengeful, angry, and unrelenting. You didn't tell me anything about her being vengeful. You told me about her being upset and her feelings were hurt. Is there anything she did that was vengeful that day that you now want to tell me about? Yes, she was being vengeful that day. How? She was upset about about what my daughter had done, and she couldn't understand a daughter who had a mother lose her life. So her reactions, hold on a second. My only question to you is, what did she do that was vengeful? I haven't heard anything about that. Is there something that you want to, the entire argument, hold on a second. Is there something you want to add now that indicates that she was vengeful somehow? Yes, the entire argument was being vengeful. Okay. The entire argument, from beginning to end, was being vengeful. Her arms crossed at the end was a perfect demonstration. Oh my God, she crossed her arms, so definitely shoot at her. God. This is like the whole logic of Karen Reed walked into the house with her shoes, so she obviously did it. This is so stupid. Why did you have this psychological evaluation done? Because Ashley called DSS and told them what? In the allegations, I can pull out the DSS allegations that she made that said, I'll just pull them out to be exact. Do you have the DSS? Ms. Murphy says, I gave them to Jessica. Do you have a copy? Mr. Sessom says, let's back up for a second before we get into this. Okay. I wasn't sure you told me when you hit the hole in the wall before or after June 15th. Let's go to Ashley's. Ashley is saying April 14th. So before that, correct? Correct. And you admit, so is he's asking Ms. Murphy or is he back to asking? Maybe that is still Doug. Yeah, right? It's still Doug. Okay. Sorry, it confused me for a second there. Doesn't take much to confuse me. All right, so I wasn't sure you told me when you hit the hole in the wall before or after June 15th. He says, let's go to Ashley's. Ashley is saying April 14th. So before that, correct? Correct. And you admit that that happened on or about the day you hit the wall to get her to stop talking? I hit it out of frustration. It had the effect of stopping her for a minute. Do you notice that he never answers the question? The question is, and you admit that that happened? but like he doesn't ever like fully admit it. He just says, it was because of this. He gives excuses for everything. Question. And what were you frustrated about? Same thing, Ashley. The story is nothing specifically like she said. I was the one in the closet. She was standing outside the closet and we were arguing once again about Eva. Why were you in the closet? I was changing clothes. You were arguing about Eva, and did you hit the wall in the closet or someplace else? No, I was in the closet, and Ashley was standing at the foot of the bed, which is 10, 15 feet away. 10 feet away. Okay, I'm sorry. You hit the wall outside of the closet, but Ashley was 10 or 15 feet away. Is that what you said? No, I was in the closet, sort of in this doorway. Yeah? And the same exact scenario, she would not stop fussing about Eva. So you hit the wall where? I was inside the closet and hit it on the inside of the closet, just about where there's an ADT alarm system. It put a hole in the wall? Yes, it did. And then my fist went through the sheetrock and sort of hit the outside. I remember that because that's where I first started to have them put the ADT, so they already started cutting the hole. Did it ever get repaired? Yes, it did. Is this Ashley's fault again because she wouldn't stop? I would say Ashley was the cause of the argument. Yes. So again, it's her fault that he can't control his temper and his limbs from throwing things, hitting things. He can't control it. But it's Ashley's fault. Get what he's laying down? All right. So question, was Ashley the cause of you putting your fist through the sheetrock? No, it was my bad decision, but Ashley caused the argument. Ashley was the entire cause of the argument. Notice, even though he is trying to say, like, no, it was my decision, but it's still Ashley's fault. So Ashley was not the cause for you putting your fist through the sheetrock, but she was the cause for the shooting the bullet in the ceiling. Ashley was the cause of both arguments because she would not stop arguing about my daughter. I'm not asking about the arguments. You misunderstood the question. Okay. You said that your bad decision caused your fist to go through the sheetrock. Was it your bad decision that caused you to shoot the bullet in the ceiling, or was it Ashley? No, both were my honest bad decisions in a stressful situation. My God, look how long it took to get him to finally admit that they were his bad decisions. And do I really think he believes that? Not really. I think he's only saying it because he knows that's what he's supposed to say, because this is going in a deposition and these are words that are going to be memorialized to be read forever. So I think he's saying what he thinks the lawyers want him to say, what he thinks the right answer is. Question. All right. Now, was everything you told the psychologist in South Carolina true? Yes. When you said to the South Carolina psychologist that, quote unquote, Ashley had made every attempt to establish a good relationship with Eva, was that true? Yeah, I'd say that's true. Okay. So, was there anything Eva did wrong as it relates to Eva? Did Eva do anything wrong? No. Is there anything Ashley did wrong? Maybe I asked the question wrong. He did. Is there anything Ashley did wrong as it relates to Eva? Absolutely. What? She was determined that she would do all discipline. She believed since she had taught 15-year-old ballerinas that she could take authority over Eva and Sydney. We had the conversation that with my experience as a step parent, that was not the best idea, but I conceded to it. So he conceded to it. He agreed to it. Even if this is totally, fabricated, because he says she's doing all discipline, which again, it's kind of a red flag when you say words like all and every and, absolutely or absolutely not. Those are all kind of red flags. So if he's saying that she was disciplining them for everything, we might take that with a grain of salt, is kind of what I'm saying here. So she was definitively very unforgiving of Eva, and little by little our arguments escalated. It became obvious that there was a huge issue, which went back to the deposition of Trip Hor- Hormony when Ashley called Tripp after 5 weeks of being married, screaming and cussing, saying the F word over and over and over to Tripp. Because you didn't want Eva, to know that you got married to Ashley? That's not true. That's not what was said. Did you hide the relationship from your daughter or the marriage from your daughter? We started off the marriage agreeing to we also agreed that Ashley was not going to listen to my question. Did you keep the marriage from your daughter Eva for a period of time? A period of time is a day or two. Okay. Do you agree that something was added to the tea that you sent on November 27th? Something was added to the tea, or it was switched out by Ashley and her mother. So now he's blaming Ashley and her mom. You're saying you didn't have I had nothing to do with it. Your wife had severe morning sickness after being pregnant? Absolutely severe. Okay. Was she nauseous frequently? From the day it started nonstop on the weekends that we flew out to her family reunion for me to meet her family and for her to see her stepsisters for like the second time in her life, and the entire flight she was nauseated. What what is he talking about? Why is he bringing up these family reunions and all this other BS? When do you think that was? Oh gosh, that was July of 2017. Okay, so July of 2017, you said she was nauseated on the flight? Yes, she felt. I'm not asking how she felt. She was nauseated on the flight. Yes, she felt nauseated. Just answer the frickin' question. Okay, when do you believe your child was conceived? I believe it was the day. I believe again, I don't know what definition of full conceive is, but I was, what? But I was there, was a day. You're asking a question and I'm trying to answer it. I'm pretty specific. When do you think your child was conceived, sir? My guess that it was the day that she got a high fever. Was when? I'd have to go back and look at it, maybe the beginning of July. Okay, so it was before this trip? Yes. Okay. You had a vasectomy before you and your wife got married? No, I had the vasectomy after we were married because she wanted children. You had the vasectomy. I had the vasectomy. Vasectomy reversed? Yeah, sorry. I had the vasectomy. Let's get back for a second. You had the vasectomy when? It would have been 2001 after Eva was born. Okay, do you remember telling Ashley when you were dating that you very much wanted more children? Yes. Okay, so when you repetitively say in filings and to the psychologist in South Carolina that it was your wife's desire to have children, which is the reason you had the vasectomy reversed, it was both your desire, right? Ultimately, yes. My timing, I did not want it that quick because we had so much going on. But you remember the text when you were dating where you were saying you wanted oodles of children. Oodles. Absolutely. And this could be love bombing when someone who is a perpetrator of ABUSE, they do this thing called love bombing where they come at you, making you feel good. They do they pull all the stunts. They show up at your work. They bring you flowers. They make you think you're really important, that you're everything to them. It's all this love bombing. And then once they get you, they separate you from your friends and your family. They isolate you. They treat you like garbage. And at that point in time, it happens very deceptively, the manipulation. And by that time, you're already in and you're already thinking that you're in love with this person, but they've portrayed themselves to be something they're not. So you're not really in love. But yes, so these oodles of children, you're in love with what he portrays to you, which is that he wants more kids. All right, answer absolutely. I'd love to have more children. Okay, So she didn't somehow force you into reversing your vasectomy, right? It depends on what you call forcing. I disagree. She was very, very persistent in the desire to get it very, very fast. Okay. You didn't have to. Why did she, it seems like you could have just pointed the gun at her and said, "No, not going to do it." Wow. Okay. Next question. Okay, but you were the one that went under the knife, if you will, and had your vasectomy reversed voluntarily, correct? Yes. When did you have that done? That would have been in April. I don't think I have the dates in front of me. April of 2017? Correct. And when your wife drinks tea? We both drink tea. Okay, but she drinks tea. Yes. Did she drink tea throughout your marriage? Yes. Did you have a habit of bringing her tea? I made her breakfast in bed, almost. Frequently? Very frequently. Almost every day is what you started to say? On a regular basis. I wouldn't say every day, but on a regular basis I would. Okay. I would get up early and work, and she slept late. Did you ever add anything to the tea? Excuse me. Did you ever add anything to the tea that could cause her to have heavy metals in her blood system? Absolutely not. Do you have any idea how she would have had heavy metals in her blood system? If she has, it's through something she did. You believe she self consumed something that caused her to have the elevated blood heavy metals that are in her system. So remember, she had these. He made her tea all the time. He sent her tea when he was living away from her, and she thought there was a heavy chemical smell to it, so she thought that he was adding things to her tea. She consumed either witting or unwitting, but through her and her lifestyle, including her mother, she would have consumed it. Okay. In no way did I ever do anything resembling that. Is there anything factual that you base that statement on other than your assumptions or inferences? Well, you're assuming. Listen to my question. I'm not asking for dialogue. Is there anything factually based, any knowledge that you have that she did something that added heavy metals to her system either before or after you separated? Did you live by a toxic waste dump? No. Did she have any tattoos? No. Are there anything that you can think of that could cause heavy metals in her system besides purposefully injecting them or you giving them to her? No, in my environment in South Carolina, there was no environment that, to my knowledge, that she could have gotten heavy metals because if she did, we all would. Okay, and you don't? I do not. Have you been tested? No, I have not. You have no belief that you have anything in your system? I have no belief, and I'm willing to take a test. And anything specific that she may have consumed, you have no knowledge of, correct? Zero knowledge, at least in our house. All right, because you never added anything to her tea other than tea or milk or sugar, correct? Nothing except for whatever she wanted. So tea or milk or sugar. She didn't bring a lot of sugar. She mostly would drink her tea straight up. Did you ever add anything to her tea besides milk, water, tea, or sugar? She preferred tea with a little honey. Anything besides honey as an additive? She's the one that bought the honey. I'm asking you, did you ever add anything to her tea besides honey? Occasionally, maybe sugar if she asked for it, or a little milk. Whatever she asked for is what she got. That's the reason I started asking about that. Besides water, honey, milk, or sugar, did you ever add anything else to her tea? I did not. Okay, do you have any reason to disagree with the testing results that she obtained that shows heavy metals in her system? I disagree, very much so. I'm not asking if you do or don't. I'm asking, do you have any basis? Basis to disbelief? Yes, because in the discovery that we're getting through subpoenas, there's a lot of details, including the fact that she had already begun looking for a heavy metal person before I even set the tea. Then on the other side, more recently, with the records we're getting from Tampa General Hospital, where she goes into the hospital to get a week 37 delivery a day after I sent her a loving letter, and she gets an urgent C-section and goes in and says she wants to breastfeed. So why would someone who believes they have heavy metal go into the hospital from the very day one saying they want to breastfeed and then also bring a report with them saying that they have they have been heavily poisoned, and they're using a report to come from Carlson dated December 15th when she turned in the quote unquote Tivana sample on December 8th, which she received according to UPS on the 30th, and she didn't return until the 8th. I have no idea what he's talking about here. So every bit of that is very suspect to me. He's saying something about like she was already looking for a heavy metals poison or a heavy metals lab to go to before, and why would she breastfeed? I mean, why would you, if that's what you want to do, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to. And maybe she was taking some sort of something to eliminate the heavy metals from her body. I'm not sure. But, anyways, then Carlton's report, according to the hospital toxicologist, would have left the baby stillborn, massively deformed, or with major birth defects. What? I don't know what that's about either. The Carlton's report. Hospital toxicologist would have left the baby stillborn. I mean, she's the baby's fine. She's a thriving 5, 6 year old, I think, or maybe she's a little bit older than that now. But she's good. Okay, question. It doesn't say that in the hospital records, does it? Sure, it does. Can you show me where? Yeah, you don't have them with you. He says Stephanie has them with her, but it's going through to find the specific page. I don't know specifically who these people are. It says consult by Tao Ho. It says I contacted Poison Control regarding the case. Per the toxicologist on staff, he was aware of the case as there had been previous reports and even self-reports on behalf of the patient. Per him, the symptoms that were reported were not consistent with rat poison as stated elsewhere. In addition, per him, hair levels, as done on the patient referring to the Carlson report, are extremely unreliable and do not have any correlation to true toxicity. As such, they cannot give any advice regarding anticipated adverse effects on fetus. I discussed with mother the need of transfers. I think he's saying if he had poisoned her, then the baby would have been stillborn. I think that's what maybe he was trying to say. I discussed with mother the need of transfer of infant to neonatal intensive care unit for observation and further evaluation. This is before the surgery. I explained that there are currently no visible gross deformities based on the ultrasound per OB. I explained that if the level of poisoning is accurate, then the effects on the fetus may vary from morphological and anomalies, low birth weight, myopathy, cardiac anomalies, etc. If the toxicity had not led in miscarriage so far, then likely will result in long-term neurological sequela. That to me, question, is that the same thing as what you said before in your opinion? Yes. Okay. What did he say? He said that it would have caused a stillborn, and that's not at all what he said. It said that it could cause the baby to be stillborn, but it could cause all these other things. But he's saying, yeah, that's fine. That's exactly the same thing he said. Question, so that's what you were referring to? Correct. Okay. Did you ever seek psychological help when you lived with Ashley? No, I did not. I had no need to. Okay. So it's normal to just shoot at your spouse. Shoot at the ceiling past your spouse. Sorry. I'll be correct in my words. All right, question. When you were in the military, what did you do? I started off as a navigator right after college in a medical program. Then I transitioned to a pilot and intelligence officer. A pilot of what? I was cross-trained just to fly multiple aircraft and just aviation in general. What type of aircraft? Originally, when I was a navigator, I flew S3s as a co-pilot, and then when I transitioned over, I was multi-rated, so I flew some rotary wing H6 helicopters. It wasn't my primary job. I was just ready to fly. How long were you a pilot? I went in the Navy in 85 after college and then left the Navy in 1999. How long were you a pilot? The whole time? Well, I was rated as a pilot. I was rated as a navigator until 92 when I got my pilot designation in 93 or thereabouts. I'm sorry, or thereabouts. When did you become an intelligence officer? I began that in 93, also intelligence school. 93? I believe that's about right. Yeah. Okay. And what was your highest rank? When I left, Lieutenant Commander. I couldn't hear you. Lieutenant Commander. Were you honorably discharged? Yes, I was. Did you ever serve in the reserves? No, I did not. And so you've been out of the military since 99. Yes, I left active duty in 99. And what do you do for work? I'm sorry, what do you do for work? I do technology company startups. What the hell does that mean? Have you ever told anybody you work for the CIA? No. Do you do any work for the CIA? Yes, my companies. And when I was in the active duty, I did work with the CIA. So since 99, have you worked for the CIA? I have worked as a contractor for the CIA, or have I worked as a contractor for the CIA? Question mark, he asks. And then the attorney says, have you worked as a contractor for the CIA since 1999? I've been in contracts that were engaged with the CIA. Yes. When was the last time you had a contract with the CIA in any way, shape, or form? That would have been 2007, 2008 timeframe. I couldn't hear you. 2007, 2008. Okay. As far as being on contract, are all of your businesses, since you met Ashley, are they in the private domain? We develop the technologies in the private domain, and some technologies we work in partnership with the government. Do you have security clearance? Yes, I do. What is your security clearance? Right now, it's just at a secret because I'm not being held on a contract. It's just at a secret. Above that, you have to be an actual specific top secret contract to hold a top secret clearance. Is part of the reason you're opposing this injunction is your security clearance? I'm opposing the injunction because I don't agree with it. That's not my question. Is part of the reason you're opposing the injunction because of your security clearance? That would be part of it, yes. Okay. Did you tell your psychologist you had to dispute the request for the order of injunction due to your security clearance involvement in a variety of defense projects and businesses? Yeah, like I said, that would be one of the reasons. Yeah. That's what you told the psychologist, correct? If the psychologist is completely accurate, it would not have been my only reason, but it would have been a major reason. So it is a major reason, and he just just glazed over it. And that's what you told the psychologist? I don't remember exactly what I told the psychologist, but it definitely was one of the reasons. Okay, you and Ashley met when you were both involved in the Trump campaign. She was involved in the Sarasota Trump campaign, and I was working with Ben Carson as part of his national security advisor team. Okay. What did you do for him? I was working with General Bob Dees writing different policies for Ben Carson. And were you ever involved in the Trump campaign or no? No, I was not involved with the Trump campaign. It was just the overlap between the two candidates that caused you to meet. A mutual friend of Ashley and I, who we both barely knew, but she was a missionary and she knew Ashley was involved with evangelical groups in Florida, and she knew that one of the companies we had acquired a database of 100 million Christians to use with Dr. Carson's campaign. and that was part of your effort. That was to manage that database. That was not my specific mission. I was working with General Bob Dees on policy, but Carol Ward, who is the missionary, knew that our company had acquired the database and she knew I was a Christian evangelical and all that. So she decided to introduce Ashley and I. That was the night before I met her. When you were a child, did you suffer an unfortunate event with a camp counselor? Not with a camp counselor. Who was the person who aided you? It was kind of enlighten the story, or how much detail do you want? Just the Reader's Digest version. I'm not trying to embarrass you. Okay, want the details. Just, it was doing what used to be a 2-week spring break. Our church went on a week-long youth church camp down at the time I was living in Huntsville, Alabama. I went on a week-long church camp, and then the next week, my best friend's family was going to stay in another city. The camp was in Panama City, and we were going to be staying the next week in Fort Walton. Beforehand, my mom, at the time, my dad was dead, my father just died. We had worked it out that night I would stay there at the church camp, and then the next day the family would come pick me up at the church camp, which is actually kind of a repurposed motel at the beach. That afternoon, the people that ran the camp said there was no room at the inn, there was no place for me to stay, so he arranged for me to go down maybe a quarter mile away to another motel. It was just a classic strip-looking motel, sort of a T-shape. Again, I'm not thinking anything about it, just playing with the kids. Later that afternoon, he said, "Let's go on down and get checked in." So we went down there. He checked me in. The camp was going to pay for the room. The motel made sort of a T shape with the front sort of being the top of the T. They me got me set up. I didn't meet the quote unquote owner. So I went back with him since I knew where the place was. I went back to the camp and then typically camp stuff until about 9 at night. Then I walked down to where my hotel room was, where the motel room was. The door's open and there's a fan in the door and my luggage wasn't in there. It was just one suitcase. I went around front and asked what was going on. Where's my luggage? The guy that was at the front desk, who I assume was the owner, but I don't know what he was, he said, "Oh, I put you in the room right behind the office, and because that room, the carpet got wet and I need to dry it out." 15-year-old, naive. There were 2 beds in the room. There was a door between the front office and that back room, or that room right behind it, where I guess he or the owner, whatever he was, stayed overnight. I was like, not thinking about it. It's probably about 10 now, and so I went and got into bed. He came in a little bit later, and then he locked the dead bolted both doors. He then started chit-chatting with me about the Christian camp and making small talk. Then he ultimately got out of bed, didn't have any clothes on, probably 6'3", 250-pound dude, and just, did what perverts do. Was he ever prosecuted? I don't, that's interesting way of putting it. Did what perverts do. Was he ever prosecuted? No. What happened was somebody started knocking on the front door, and I was kind of hyper aware of what was going on around me. I could hear a car pull up because, it was really just maybe the office motel is maybe the size of the room, very small. Then somebody beating on the front door. He stopped and said, basically don't move, and went up onto the front room. I try and get up, and kind of at that age, I was pretty much in shock and try to grab my bag. I could hear him talking up front with some people. Then, just as I could hear the front door shut, I can hear him now kind of turn around to come back. I'm kind of halfway out of the door, no clothes and on, and a different door. A different door is what you're saying? What's that? A different door? Well, there was a side door, like a door to the motel room, and there was a door that went into the main building, and he's coming back in. Somehow he had locked himself out, and so he's shaking at the door. I'm out like lightning out of the room. I grab my bag and literally run across the parking lot and hide in the bushes. I remember him, kind of going out and looking around for me. As soon as he kind of walks toward the back, I grab my bag and I run back, and I have no idea, but it was probably midnight now, somewhere in there. I'm running back to the youth camp and to the room where the family that ran the camp was, and just pound on the front door. They finally come in, and I'm like kind of hyperventilating at that point and just hysterical. 15 years old and clueless. I'm assuming adults are going to do what adults do. My friends are coming the next morning. I sleep on the couch, sort of in disbelief. Then the next morning, my friends show up and they pack me up, and I didn't talk about it for 5 years. Nobody got arrested? I'm sorry? Nobody got arrested? No. I assume, looking back, that the camp either didn't believe me or they feared for what would happen to the camp if something happened. My point is, nobody got arrested. Not why nobody got arrested. Not to my knowledge. The cops were never contacted, the people never reported it. Are you gay or a homosexual? Sorry, are you gay or a heterosexual? Says I'm 100% heterosexual. Does your wife have any reason to believe that you're homosexual? No, she does not, and whatever she says, she's making it up. Okay, so he's already assuming that she's making it something up. So you've had no homosexual contact other than when you were violated by this worker or owner of the hotel? I have had none, to my knowledge, until Ashley started bringing in the gays with the ballet. I admit I was in a world of if there are gays, you don't know about this. What? When you brought gays, I love how you just talk about like the gays. When you bring gays, when she brought gays, when you were talking about contact, did you have any sexual contact with the gays in the ballet? No. That's what I'm asking you. No. Did you ever have any sexual contact with any homosexuals other than the person who aided you when you were a child? Never, ever. Again, that not that he's saying, no, I'm not saying that he's lying, but he's being extremely definitive with the never, ever. He's doubling down on that. Question. Eva felt betrayed by your decision to marry Ashley. I mean, if you're summing it up, I'm asking what you said to the counselor. You said that Ashley, strike that. You made an error becoming involved with Ashley because Eva felt betrayed by your decision. Yeah, I mean, that sums up a lot of stuff. Yeah, but generalizing it would be true. I was not anything like what I anticipated. It was not anything like I anticipated would happen. You were married the first time at 28? Yeah, about that age, yes. To Tracy. Correct. And remember, this is the first wife who he said was crazy. And then he said then the second wife was Renee, who he was married to for a while. He had Eva with, and he became a step parent with, I believe, through Renee as well. All right, to Tracy. Correct. And how long were you married to Tracy? Maybe a year. I don't remember specifically, but time frame about a year. Why did you get divorced? Very different person for me. She have any mental issues? She might have. I couldn't tell you. It wasn't long enough. I just know that we were very, very different. When I came back from deployment, I had been gone for almost a year, so there was not much left at that point. She had kind of gone on with life without me, and just there was nothing left. No children from that marriage, correct? No, we more or less stayed friendly, but we just separated. The reason you went and took this psychological evaluation was because the Social Services Department of South Carolina required it? There was no requirement. I did it voluntarily because I knew I had nothing to hide, and I was glad to do it. Did the reports were of Eva and Sydney in part? No, the allegations were that I was a violent a alcoholic, physically maltreating, both of which DSS found was unfounded. So there were allegations that he was violent, that he was an alcoholic, and that he was um, physically harming people. In fact, in the letter, a referral to Dr. Wade from DSS, they said that Ashley was the one that caused the fear in the girls. Ashley what? Caused the fear in the girls. How did she cause fear in the girls? Because she called them and started saying all of the same allegations she's made about me A-ing her. Okay. And I've never touched Ashley. You don't have to touch the person to be in one of these people that perpetrates these crimes. You could never have touched her, but be maltreating her, besides physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, um, verbally, in many ways, many, many ways, you can still be maltreating someone, even if you never touch them. If he has these outbursts of anger like this, and he's doing this with Ashley, it's common that it's not unheard of that he might be having outbursts like this with the girls too. Anyways, let's move on. So, question. She called the girls and told them these things, and that made them afraid? Yeah, because she created this whole set of allegations, which she put out that I was physically A-ing people, which was never true, and nothing like what she had said ever happened. But she put fear, including DSS, said that that Ashley told Sydney that Sydney's life was in danger because she, quote, knew too much. What? Okay. That was in the DSS report too. So Ashley put ideas in the girls' heads? Absolutely. And the girls then communicated those ideas to the social services department? Yeah, I mean, they told DSS everything, including Sydney told DSS that Ashley had told her that her life was in danger, and that all happened between the time of DSS's initial interview and then the writing of the safety plan, because DSS came back with a safety plan that had the allegations of that Ashley had put in there, that they had already done the interviews. They came back with a safety plan, and DSS was going to return the girls to the house. But between those interviews and between DSS writing a safety plan, returning, keeping the girls in the house, the girls were happy as clams. We were just getting back to life, back to normal life. Even after Ashley gone, sorry, somebody is mowing their lawn or something. And it's of course extremely loud. Uh, better. So somewhere between their interviews, the first interviews with DSS and staying in the house, Ashley had reached out to Sydney and told Sydney her life was in danger. So Sydney and Eva were both coming to the house that day that DSS came with whatever her name is, and she was going to, at the time, I didn't know what she was there for, but she brought this safety plan, which I signed, and the girls were going to stay at the house. One of the girls got there, or once the girls got there, Ashley had also called the police, and the police had shown up at the house. Ava was almost in PTSD from the police showing up. 6 cop cars showing up at the house because Ashley called Manatee County Sheriff's Office for a wellness check. 6 cop cars showed up at our house when Eva was home alone later in the afternoon and I was at Bible study event. So what? Eva literally freaked out when 6 cop cars showed up. By now, Eva is absolutely terrified to stay at the house because of what would happen next with DSS, literally almost harassing her, us at least in her eyes, and then Ashley calling and talking to particularly Sydney. And so by the time the girls got back to the house between the interviews, this is very confusing. And if you guys are lost, you're not the only one. He's kind of all over the place and talking about things that we don't really have reference to yet. All right, so between the two interviews where DSS said already They knew there was no foundation for what Ashley was saying, and then actually showing up with a safety plan with the girls staying at the house. The girls get to the house, and Sydney brings the gentleman, the family that she's staying with, and Sydney is almost terrified. This was before a girl who was doing great. She was not. That's why she was coming to stay with you. She wasn't doing great. And she was not the best influence on Eva either. But he's gonna say like she was doing great when she was under our house and then she went and blah, blah, blah. No. And it's all Ashley's fault, obviously, is what he's gonna say. He says this was before a girl doing great. Her and Eva were just beginning to. Again, it's been a year now. The girls are starting a little bit more to find a pattern, get into normal life, starting to act like sisters. A lot of Sydney's issues now are, I wouldn't say resolving, but we're in part of in part of going to see her counselor, very involved in her life. I had a good heart for her mother, maintained, even in spite of what was going on, maintained contact with her mother to try and peripherally hope that Sydney could return to her home one day so she could have a mother because her father had died. The two girls show up on that night thinking the two girls show up on the night that I'm thinking we're getting past all this chaos, only to find out now Sydney has been told her life's in danger because she, quote, knows too much. And at that point, it all blows up again, and Sydney chooses to go stay at the other house with, I can't remember their name either, um, not with his mother, but with a couple that she knew that were friends of hers and Eva's. And Eva is in utter shell shock and says she doesn't want to stay at the house either. She wants to go stay with Ben and Beverly. Okay. I don't understand why Sydney has to go stay with these other people when you're the ones that have guardianship of her. So why would you let her go stay at these other people's homes if this is the case for real? I think that there's something else to why this friend is staying at the friend's house. Question. Both children make their own decision not to stay at the house? Yeah, because of what Ashley said to them, causing fear, as DSS said. He he just turns around and blames everything on Ashley, doesn't he? Okay, so you told the psychologist that the reason that you fell in love with Ashley was because of her quote unquote brilliance, looks, and her appreciation for guns. Ms. Murphy says, Mark, I'm going to need to take a little break here. You're shifting gears a little bit. Sorry? She says, I need to take a break since you're shifting gears for a few minutes. Just give me 5 minutes or so. And Mr. Sessom says, absolutely. Off the record for 6 minutes, they come back. Mr. Sessom says, read back the last question and answer, please. The question and answer referred to were repeated by the court reporter. Mr. Sessom continues his questioning. Was it your understanding the judge's issue was in South Carolina with the domestic filing? Can you say that again? The judge, you said, took issue with the method by which Ashley's lawyer handled the proceeding in South Carolina. What was the issue? That she had filed this as an emergency protective order and for something that she alleged happened back on the date we established was June for the gun incident, and she had thrown in a few other things. I don't remember specifically what the allegations were, but the judge took exception to that her and her attorney would file this as an emergency motion when Ashley was actually already living in Florida, that I was the one that took her down there, and that the emergency motion, as I understand it, is the 24-hour kind of thing, and the fact that it happened so many months before, now she's alleging she was in danger. It doesn't matter that it was so many months before. It is a pattern and all of the things leading up to the way that he is behaving, and she feels threatened. She feels like she is in fear of her life and her safety and the baby's safety. Going back to is the 24-hour kind of thing and the fact that it happened so many months before. Now she's alleging she was in danger, which she in fact was already living in Florida and I was the one who took her down there, blah blah blah. So he chastised her, the judge, or I should say the attorney, I guess, chastised her. Then it's also actually in the beginning of his mutual restraining order, it's also says the same thing. And that day, I just remember the judge was very perturbed. So you're saying that the judge was angry at Ashley and her attorney. That means that her injunction, her restraining order has no merit. That's basically what he's saying. I think the judge, because of the fact that they were living in separate states, he didn't consider it to be an emergency, even though the fact that he had been coming to watch her in the neighbor's yard, he had been visiting her, looking for properties down there. He admitted to going down there frequently. We read it in part 1. He admitted to going down to Florida frequently where she was staying. So, yeah, it still, I think, should have been an emergency. And if her attorney argued that, I don't know. But um, we know now that he had been coming down there very frequently and not always telling her that he was coming. He would just show up. All right. So where were we? All right. Okay. And I think that's reflected actually in the documents he drafted. Why would somebody already living in Florida months later come back and start making all these allegations? Okay. Why was it that there was an agreement that you not have any contact with Sydney for 6 months? Ms. Murphy says, Ashley? The witness says, because of Ashley. Why the hell is Ms. Murphy answering the question for the witness? She is his attorney. She should not be answering the question. Wow. Okay. Uh, so, anyways, moving on. Because Ashley requested that you agree to it, no, I did not agree to it. I don't even know how it got in there. I did not agree to it. You didn't agree to it. You think that was a mistake in the order? I think Ashley and her allegations heavily influenced it. Sydney was not, because of her memory going back to the safety plan on the night we signed this, where it says report alleges father Doug Benefield is a heavy drinker and gets verbally and physically violent, which DSS said this as the allegation. But here they were putting the children back in the home, recognizing which they proved out there was no validity to it whatsoever. And so those things with the girls headed back to our house, everything is well, and the amount of intentional poisoning that Ashley did unnecessarily of two 15, 16-year-old girls being that destructive, breaking up our home. So now he's accusing Ashley of poisoning the teenage girls. Where's that coming from? Now he's accusing Ashley of poisoning the teenage girls. You know, these people, perpetrators of A, they often blame their victims of doing the very things that they are doing. So could he have possibly been poisoning his own child and Sydney too? Unreal. Question. Unnecessarily poisoning? Is that what you said? You mean emotional poisoning? The poisoning of their minds. Poisoning of their minds. All right. Do you see a psychologist, William Labreezy? Yes, I do. Do you still see that person? Sure. Every other week. Yes. Every other week. About every other week. He's a Christian counselor I was referred to by the church. What for? Just, while all of this is going on, since what I believe we're dealing with now is Ashley's mental health, is that it helps me understand and know how to deal with what is going on and understand what happened and why somebody could become so angry, irrational, destructive, and basically showing a desire to destroy my life and my daughter's life. Again, people who abuse often project. And the things that they say are about the person, their victim, is usually the things that they're doing. So I just want to be clear. When he says she becomes angry, irrational, destructive, and basically showing desire to destroy my life and my daughter's life, he means he is all of those things, in my opinion. And if Ashley is angry, if she is irrational, does that mean that you aren't still responsible for your own actions? Does that mean that even if she was out to destroy your life, does that mean that it gives you the right to shoot the gun in the ceiling past her or throw a loaded gun at her? It doesn't. It definitely doesn't. She could be angry and irrational. Those are all things that any human being can be at any time. That does not mean go ahead and commit maltreatment on them. All right, question. These text messages are in Exhibit 2. What are these? Those are 340 pages of text messages between Ashley and I from day one, including in September and October when she's made all the allegations that there was a very loving lifestyle and that I was a very caring, loving husband. So these text messages are from the start of your relationship with Ashley. Remember that term, love bombing? They're nice in the beginning. They're so nice. They're so super duper lovey in the beginning. But yeah, it turns quickly. All right, so these text messages are from the start of your relationship with Ashley. These go back to Ms. Murphy. Murphy interjects and says, Mark, let me clarify. That's the same thing I've already provided to you, but I just printed it out again in response to the notice. I was tired of killing trees, she says. He says, okay. She continues, they're the same ones you already have. Now he's going to continue his questioning. Do you admit that in some of these text messages you express jealousy of Ashley being around other men? You'd have to show me. Do you remember where and if you're taking 340 pages of loving text and going back to one small detail, I'd say that's a little bit trying to twist something. But if you said the words, then you said the words, so it's not twisting anything. But you don't know what I'm talking about yet. No, I don't. Do you see how defensive he got, though? Sure did get defensive. So your testimony is that you have every single text between you and Ashley, right? Every single iMessage text is in there. I assume this is the entire 340 pages. Ms. Murphy says, yes, I just consolidated it. Witness says, and then there was 1,000 pages, I think, we're providing of WhatsApp messages. Mr. Sassam continues. So are these all dated? Is your number ending in 5256? That's correct. And so you remember, I don't see texts from December of 2016. The last one I see is September 2nd, 2000. Whoops, wait a second. It goes from September 9th, 2016 to October 2017 in what you handed me today. Yeah. Why? Because that's all that printed out with my iMessage. You said you had every single text between the two of you. Yeah. Everything that I'm aware of, I printed out. If there's other messages, then I'm missing them. Well, you said I'm confused by, to my knowledge. Hold on a second. I'm confused by your testimony because when you look at this, you told me specifically, because I asked you at least twice, are these all the text messages between you and Ashley? And you said yes. All the texts I have. No, I asked, are they all the texts? And you said from the history of day one. All the texts. Hold on a second. Now, when we look at it, it goes, there's a huge gap between September 9th, 2016 and October of 2017, true? The gap, if there is one, I do have text message from, is there a gap between September 9th, 2016 and October 2017? Yeah, there's a gap in mine too because Ashley was with me because we were probably using WhatsApp. Anything that's not in there is probably in the WhatsApp. We also provided 1,000 pages of WhatsApp. Anything that's not in here, we also used WhatsApp. I don't know if we have it, but that is a huge file. See that? Ms. Murphy says, I just have some other old stuff. Mr. Sessom says, you said you didn't bring that. Ms. Murphy says, I did not bring that. No, I didn't know that was new from what I already had. Okay. Mr. Sessom continues his questioning. Do you remember? Again, in perspective, Ashley had gone back to Florida a good bit, back and forth. There's no question pending. And also, I paid for her and her mom had planned a cruise, and so I paid for a friend of hers to go on a cruise with her, and pretty much that entire time frame, we were using WhatsApp to text. So when I asked you to produce all of the communication records and you said you had, you were just talking about portions of text messages and you didn't produce the WhatsApp document that you have, correct? No, I did. I gave them to Stephanie. But you haven't produced them here today, correct? No, not to my knowledge. All right. So he's missing 1,000 pages of texts in WhatsApp between the two of them. Ms. Murphy says, and I can just have Gina forward those. I just didn't print them. I just didn't realize they were any different. Mr. Sassam says, in addition, you've produced Wells Fargo documents. How does his lawyer not know that they're different? I call bull on that. I think there's a reason why I shouldn't bring it. In addition, you've produced Wells Fargo documents. Correct. That was one of the things Stephanie told me to bring or to send to her. Okay, and that's everything you've produced today, correct? I mean, Stephanie can go through the list of I'm talking about Stephanie. I'm not talking about Stephanie. That's everything in front of me that you handed me this morning, correct? I handed you nothing. Stephanie did. And Stephanie, okay. Is that everything you've produced today for the deposition? That's what I'm trying to find out. Everything Stephanie produced with the exception of I gave you these sheets, and he indicates the sheets. Okay, let's mark as Exhibit 4 the text and ask you if you've ever seen this text before. That is all from WhatsApp. Okay, this is a small portion, yes. All right, and this is when she's on the cruise. She's on a cruise where? They went to the Bahamas. Her and her mother had planned a cruise, sort of as at the end of the Trump campaign. Once Ashley and I were married, she didn't want to go, she really didn't want to go, but she didn't want to upset her mother, which I understand, but to make it better for her, to have more fun, I paid for her friend Christy Whipple to fly down. I bought her a plane ticket, bought her a ticket for the cruise, and so Christy and her mother were gone for maybe a long week, maybe 10 days, 8 or 10 days. I'm going to stop right there and say, what did that have to do with anything? These people, perpetrators of they also like to throw in your face things that they do for you. Anything that could be considered a favor in their eyes. So I did her a favor by, sending her friend to go fly down with her and all this BS. So I really think, like, 'cause that's not the first time that he's mentioned it already in this deposition. He wanted to bring it up. He wants to get it in there because he wants everybody to know I'm such a good guy. I buy my wife and I buy my wife's friend a ticket to join her on a cruise because I love her so much and I'm just such this wonderful dude. When behind closed doors, that's a different story, but whatever. Question. I'm just asking where you went, where they went. Strike that. The Bahamas, as far as I know. So she's on a cruise and you're not with her, correct? Correct. And you're upset that she's asking that she's with other people? No. I was upset that we weren't together. There was one night we were talking. We were going back and forth, including She's only showing parts of this conversation, but we're both talking about that we were sad either one of us had other relationships in our lives. And so this is just part of the conversation. That's not the full conversation. Right. It's part of the conversation. And you said you couldn't even think about her being with other people. And if I dwelled on it, I would go into a rage to remove them from the earth. What did you mean by that? Well, she left off there where she hadn't had. Let me see what's in there. Let's put it in some context and get the whole conversation. I'm not asking what the context was, sir. I'm asking you, what does it mean when you say if you dwelled on it, you would go into a rage to remove them from the earth? That's called context, and it's called the rest of the messages. And where are they? Why did she only produce a portion of the conversation? Why did I? Can you answer my question? I'm not here to answer your questions. I'm trying to, but you keep interrupting me. Okay. This is part of the longer conversation that was probably 15 pages before this, where we're both talking about, former relationships. Let me see if this is in here. Let's see, what did she leave out? I'm just asking. Well, I'm trying to answer, but you keep interrupting me. So can I just talk and stop interrupting me? No, I'm not asking you to talk. That's the point. You're not supposed to talk unless there's a question. You're asking me to answer what? I'm asking you to answer what that one statement meant. I'm going to put it into context for you. I just want an answer to the question. I'm answering it, but you won't let me. I don't think you are answering it. No, I am answering it, but it's not what you want. I apologize for the loud lawnmower. Sorry. Hold on one second. All right, I think they're done now, hopefully. Where was I now? I just want you to answer the question. I'm answering it, but you won't let me. I don't think you are answering it. No, I'm answering it, but it's not what you want, but I'm answering the question. You're trying to tell me what the context was, and that's not my question. Okay, it is. The context is we had had a long conversation, which she conveniently left out of here, and she's saying the same thing, okay? Let's read what she said. It's the same in knowing you were taken advantage of. So he's saying she took advantage of him? The court reporter says, if you can slow down just a little, thank you. The witness says, in that same conversation, Ashley said the people that had you all this the wait, what? In that same conversation, Ashley said the people that had you all this time. Yes, baby, I hate it. It hurts. This is Ashley speaking. This is not a one-sided conversation, right? And Mr. Sessom says, that's not my point. And his answer is, yes, it is your point, and I'm making my point, and you can stop talking too, please. And Ashley said about how you had a whole life before me, all the people who had you when I didn't. Ashley said about how you had a whole life before me, all the people who had you and I didn't. That's Ashley speaking. What do you want to know about what I said? The question is, I just want to know what your statement meant. The same thing Ashley said, the people who had you. The people who had you what? The same thing Ashley said. Ashley said all the people who had you when I didn't. That's Ashley. What did I say? I said the people who had you all this time. That's not the question I'm asking. I'm answering your question. No, you're not, sir. If I said the same thing she said. You said I would go into a rage to remove them from the earth. What does that statement mean? What she left out. I'm not asking that. I'm just asking what the statement means that you would remove from the earth. Does that mean you would take their lives? He says, the guy who choked her out, the men who aid her, what would you do if somebody choked your wife out? What would you do if somebody physically ate your wife? I'm asking you what you said. Yeah, I'm talking about men who had ate Ashley. So, and I'm protective of my wife, meaning you wanted to take their lives. That's speaking in hyperbole. So, in a hyperbole, you were talking about taking their lives, correct? No, you're putting words in my mouth. I'm asking what you meant. You can't answer the question for some reason. No, because the thought of men choking my wife. Let me restate it. The thought of men choking my wife out, which happened the first night I was with Ashley, she asked me to choke her out. I'm not asking about that. Yes, you are. You are asking about that. I'm asking what your statement was. I'm telling you. I would remove them from the earth, meaning that you would take their lives. It's a yes or no question. If you can't answer the question, I'll move on. Move on because it's a ridiculous question. To put it in context, let me ask you what you would do if a man choked your wife out. I'm not here to answer your questions. On Exhibit 5, it says more specifically, I mean, good way to answer that. Just move on because nothing is stopping this guy. He just is on a roll, he's unleashed, unhinged. I'm not here to answer your questions. On Exhibit 5, it says more specifically, now all I see is some douchebag on top of you effing you with your legs spread and him choking you out and effing you more. That's what you're talking about, right? That's a man choking my wife out. You said, right now, I literally want to go take his life, him or them. Sure, I was angry. Who wouldn't? All right. So you're saying you wouldn't, as a man, be that upset when someone ate your wife. I'm not here to answer your questions. Okay, I'm saying it rhetorically. What man would not be angry at a man who had ate and choked his wife out multiple times to the point where she asked me to choke her out the first time we were ever together? Now he's got to like turn it and make it seem like, it's some kind of horrible fact on Ashley when it has nothing to do with her. If she was ate her whole life, that's you know serious psychological effects can happen from that. And if he was, he experienced some trauma too. So there's definitely cause for concern when it comes to mental stability in both of them. I'm not saying that Ashley's perfect in this. I'm not saying anything of the sort. But from what I'm reading from Doug, he's not taking responsibility. He blames everything on Ashley. And it takes forever to get an answer out of him. He's refusing to answer questions. He's combative with the lawyer. He's um, uh, very defensive as well. So it's an odd thing kind of listen to. I don't know. It's hard for me as an individual listening to the person not listening to the answers or not listening to the questions and answering something completely out of left field that has nothing to do with anything else, and just making sure like he has to get in those points where he looks good, you know so he's got to talk himself up where he can, and then he just won't answer the questions that he doesn't want to. All right, let's keep going on a little bit longer, and then we are going to have to make this probably a three-parter just because it is a lengthier deposition because it's difficult to get answers out of them. So, all right. Where was I? Rhetorically, blah, blah, blah. Did I read this page yet? I'm not here to answer your questions. So you're saying you wouldn't as a man, blah, blah, blah. He says, I'm not here to answer your questions again. He says, okay, I'm saying rhetorically, what man wouldn't be angry? Yeah, that made me sick as a man, he says. So you were very jealous of Ashley? No, I was not very jealous of Ashley. You said in Exhibit 6 that I'm jealous right now, simply nauseated because she was on a cruise. Yeah, I meant that in a good way. I just used the word jealous because she's without me and we just got married. This is before you ever got married. No, it's after we were married. Just shortly after you got married, right? Yeah, my bride, a new bride. And you're talking about the twins that you wanted her to have already, correct? Yeah, we had a conversation. It's all good. A husband who loves his wife. Okay, so you're saying that you wanted twins with her at this point in time where she's just your new bride, but yet earlier he said he didn't want the kids. He didn't want them just, this early on. He wanted it not to happen so fast, apparently. Okay. If you find something wrong in there, it's interesting. All confirmed by 340 pages of loving text and 1,000 pages of WhatsApp loving texts, all respectful and very loving. They're the rats that should have been removed. Again, you're talking about the people who ate her. The people who that aid my wife, yes. I'll mark that as Exhibit 7. Renee died unexpectedly? Yes. Your second wife, right? Yes. Hold on. Garbage day. Okay, I think the worst of it is gone now. All right, so for how long were you married? For 15 years until she died, going on 16 years. You were living in separate bedrooms at the time. No, we were not. Your son testified to that fact, right? No, it's not what he said. So he's a son. I know he has these other kid or stepkids, but I don't know um, much about their relationship or anything like that. Your son testified to that fact, right? No, it's not what he said. It was clarified. You're completely misconstruing it. We were trying to get my daughter from coming down in the middle of the night to get in the bed with Renee and I because she was a teenager and she had, for most of her life, when she was young, had slept in the bed with us until she was 10. But then she got back in the habit of coming back downstairs to sleep in bed with us in the middle of the night. So I was going upstairs to try as long as somebody was upstairs because the boys had moved out of the house. And what had been testified and acknowledged in your misconstruing is they acknowledge I was there to try to break Eva's habit of coming down to bed with Renee and I. Let's be accurate. You were gone about 50% of the time when Renee died. On business? I wouldn't say 50%, but I was gone we were in the startup mode of our businesses, so I had to travel a lot, mostly to Washington, D.C., to where our customers were. No, it was never 50%. It was never 50%? I take that back. We'll mark this as Exhibit 8, where you said in here that you're gone 50% of the time with Renee. Yeah, but there was a couple years when I commuted every week to DC when Eva was little. Until Renee died, I was gone 50% of the time. Is that right? Is that what you're telling your wife, Ashley? This is summarizing in a text message with Ashley. Is that what you're telling her? That's what I'm telling Ashley. I wouldn't say that's exact, but I threw it out there. If you took maybe the years I worked in DC every week, let's put it in context again. It's got to put everything in context. The 50% goes back to the years I kept my family in Charleston while I drove every week to Washington, D.C. In Exhibit 8, also, when you talk about reversing your vasectomy, you're saying, I would have to get it fixed. Ouch, but happy to. Ouch, but happy to. Sure. That was your comment? She wasn't somehow compelling you to do that, right? No. And she did dramatically want it. And so I was being a nice husband. So he's just being a nice husband by getting a vasectomy and having a baby with her. Okay. At this point, you're taking one message and taking it as gospel. So that's called twisting and the completeness of it. Yes, I wanted children. I did not want them right then. I acknowledged I would have to get a vasectomy reversal. Weren't you throughout this WhatsApp saying how much you wanted children with Ashley? That WhatsApp is before. What's the date on that? You told me it was after you got married. So that's before we started a ballet. That's before we took Sydney in. That's before Ashley and Eva were blowing up. That's before any of these crazy little things started happening in our life, and I recognized we needed to slow down. So later, it's called common sense. We needed to slow down. Wow, is that not condescending and rude? Before you got married, you were telling her how much you wanted children. After you got married, you told her, hey, I'm not so sure. I never said I wasn't sure about having children. What I was sure about was we were talking or taking on a lot in our life when I agreed to fund a national ballet or to help her with it. And we took on a 16-year-old problem child, lovingly took on a 16-year-old problem child when Ashley began. So she wasn't perfect. She wasn't having the greatest life, but she was a problem child. And you took her in knowing she was a problem child. So you guys did that and have no one to blame but yourselves. Doug also had part in that responsibility. Lovingly took in the problem child when Ashley began having issues with Eva, and vice versa, and the house was under a lot of stress. I thought Ashley and Eva had problems from the very beginning because you guys lied to her about being married. A lot thrown into a small house, relatively speaking, in a short period of time. You were telling Ashley before you got married that she'd be mesmerized by Ashley. That's what I thought. That's what I assumed. I think that he meant Eva. You were telling Eva that she'd be mesmerized by Ashley or vice versa. I don't know. That's what I thought. That's what I assumed. That's what you said in Exhibit 9. She'll be mesmerized by you. That's what I would have assumed my daughter's reaction would be, that Eva would be mesmerized by Ashley. She wants someone in our lives is that, yeah, one, right? Yeah, that was an assumption on my part, but obviously it was flawed. So, really, you misjudged the situation, right? So, we both misjudged the situation. You said when I asked you about your first wife, Lindsay, is that what her name was? The first wife, Tracy. Tracy, I apologize. You said that she didn't have mental problems. Didn't you tell? I said I don't know. I don't know what was wrong with her. Didn't you tell Ashley that she had a serious mental thing? Uh-huh. Does that uh-huh mean yes? That's what I told Ashley, yeah. So why are you saying something different today? Because I couldn't tell you what was wrong. At that point, I was guessing what might have been wrong with her. What did you mean when you said to Ashley, God put Renee with me to speak away in prayer warfare? Say again? Quote unquote, God put Renee with me to speak away in prayer warfare. Can I read that? I'm not sure I'm understanding you. It's on page 2. Which one? At the top. Before that, we're talking about more long story stuff. So I'm summarizing here, and it says, I think this is just a little bit of a typo. God put Renee with me to speak. What's that mean? I'm not sure, but I can tell you kind of what I'm trying to say. God put me with. So I think this is sort of a misspeak, but Renee was a deeply profound woman in her way, particularly when I met her and pretty much the whole time. So she was a very prayerful woman. And with me and traveling and the challenges of business startups and raising capital, as well as there was a lot of really difficult things going on in her life with her parents, with her mother with dementia, and her father had become an alcoholic. She just prayed a lot. She was just a prayerful woman, and our family needed it. Her parents needed it, and Renee had been an influence on me being around somebody who prayed so much. What you meant by that, you can't tell me? I just summarized what I probably meant. Renee was just a very prayerful woman, very prayerful. What God put her here for you for prayer warfare? Warfare? What is that? What is prayer warfare? It sounds like you're going to prayer or you're going to war on people with prayer. Like you used her to pray against your enemies or something. Like that's kind of what I think it means in my idea, like my interpretation of it. But I'm totally wrong and totally out there, but warfare means you're going to war. What is prayer warfare? Are you praying someone? Praying so hard that someone gets vengeance or something? That's warfare? I don't know. That's my take on it. What do you guys think prayerful warfare is? You were excited about the ballet from the start about being involved with it. I was excited for Ashley. I thought the ideas were great. It was entertaining and interesting to me. It was definitely a mystery to me, the people, as I came to understand. The whole ballet thing I knew was symbolic and possibly the biggest meaning and somehow a fulfillment. The ballet, somehow out of the blue, that represents the fullness of God and beauty, and that is ballerina. You were excited about it, right? Did he read something there? I don't know what that whole part was. Yeah, I was definitely excited about it. I thought she had a great idea. Okay. In fact, that's why I spent a lot of money funding it. I believed in Ashley and what she was trying to do. How much money did you spend? I mean, it's hard to say. I haven't gone back and looked exactly, but part of not knowing how much cash we spent was that I was selling stock way undervalued to pay for it, and I sold a portion of a company way undervalued to fund it. Well, then why did you do those things? She didn't tell you to do it. She didn't make you do that. So the actual value of the stock I let go could easily have been $1 million. Easily. Okay. How much money did you put into it is my question. Well, probably because personal stock probably in the order of between 75 and 100,000. How is that near $1 million? Where did the money come from? I would sell stock in one of my companies. The stock was in what account? What do you mean? The stock's in what account? You held stock how? Through a brokerage account? This wasn't publicly traded stock. This was private company stock. Right. In what business? The stock that came out of TM Technologies, I believe. T as in Tom? Yeah. TM Technologies. M as in Mary? Correct. Technologies. Is that a South Carolina company? No. It's a Tuscan corporation, Arizona corporation, Arizona corporation. Okay, and did you have a percentage interest before you sold your stock that you know of? I mean, that the percentage that you held before you sold your stock was what? I couldn't, let me rephrase that. I'm just trying to remember back my company, one of my companies I have stock, one of the companies I'm a founder of held the stock in TM Technologies. The stock I was selling was a company called Transform X. Transform X? Yeah, Transform X. Is that an Arizona company too? Arizona Corporation. That was a holding company for an interest in TM Technologies? No, it was not. It's two completely separate companies. I thought you said that TM Technologies stock was held by Transform X. No, I said I was trying to remember which company I sold stock of. No, he didn't. Now he's just lying. There might have there might have at the beginning been TM, but I think it was all Transform X. I'm confused. I'm sorry, what did you sell to get the money to put in the ballet? It would have been Transform X stock. What did you sell it who did you sell it to? Sorry. A lot of people wanted it, probably 6 or 8 different people. Did you sell it personally? Did I sell the stock personally? Did you consummate the transactions yourself or somebody do it for you? Yeah, I did it. I did all the stock certificate transfers, so that company was paying me monthly in stock, and so it was just a stock that I was receiving that I was then turning around and selling. Okay. So when you sold this stock to people, who were you selling? Who are the people you sold it to? I'd have to go back and look. Where are the records that relate to these sales of stock that you're talking about? Well, they'd be in South Carolina. Do you have a file that relates to this? Yeah. Is that yes? Yes, I do. Yeah. And where did the money go when you received it? Well, What I was doing was money that was above what I was being paid as a consultant. What I would do when we found a company, I was involved in the startup, and sometimes I would get paid by the company as a 1099 consultant during the early startup phases, and then most of the stock that the in the founding is actually held by a parent company that I just have a percentage in, but with Transform X. Part of what I was being paid was just in stock. If I needed money above and beyond, maybe what I was getting paid because I sometimes could be paid by 3 or 4 different companies, I was selling that stock to then pay myself, which then I was then writing checks out for the ballet. So he was selling the stock to pay himself and then he would write checks to the ballet. So, okay. It doesn't seem like he was only doing it for the sole purpose of investing in the ballet. It seems like that's just how he paid himself for his projects because they paid them in stock, apparently. And you're selling stock by calling private investors and asking if they wanted to buy the stock. Most of them called me. We never had a problem raising capital. They knew I had stock in those valuable companies. These are private transactions between you as shareholder and, yeah, hold on a second, and some other potential stockholder, correct? Yes. When they paid you, where was the money placed? When I sold stock, it went into the account, which I think you're pointing to the account statements that you gave us today. Correct. One of the accounts at Wells Fargo. And it would have been the account for who? Yourself personally or Benny Ltd? That's just a single member entity, LLC. Benny Ltd, yes, is where the money went into that account. Yeah, that's just a single member entity. Okay, so when I make whatever money was needed by the ballet, I would transfer it out of that account to the ballet. Did your wife know you were funding the ballet? Yes, Ashley knew. She knew that it was causing financial stress on us on top of everything else. That's not my question. Did she know you were funding the ballet? Like, why even bring that up, that it was causing financial stress on you on top of everything else? Like, it's all her fault. He just blames everything on her. He does not take any responsibility in any of his decisions. Did she know you were funding the ballet? Yes, she knew. And did she know how much you were putting into the ballet? She knew approximately because she knew how much it was costing. How did she know? Because she was executive director of the ballet and knew at any given time that the ballet was starting to get expensive. Did you handle the finances? Yeah, but she was involved. She knew we were buying airplane tickets. She knew we were leasing hotel rooms. Any human being, can figure out you're spending money if you're flying people around. She helped negotiate, or she was very part and parcel of when we paid a famous photographer to come to Charleston. She knew exactly how much that cost. She knew I paid for this hotel room. She knew I paid for his flight. She knew I paid him money to do the photography. She knew when she flew the entire entourage to Maryland or to the auditions. She knew I was paying for all that. She knew I reimbursed everybody for their expenses. So, yes, she knew. Unless she can't. Hold on with the garbage again. Hold on one. All right. I think the worst of it is over again. Sorry. They're so loud. They come like they do both sides of the street separately, and it's just like separate times of the day, and they spread it out, and it just happens like constantly throughout the day that garbage trucks go by our house. All right. So she knew I paid him money to do the photography. She knew I flew the entire entourage to Maryland or to the auditions. She knew I was paying for all that. She knew I reimbursed everybody for their expenses. So, yes, she knew. Unless she can't do, simple math, she knows I spent a lot of money. Again, the condescension, the way he talks about her, like he really just does not respect her. Yeah, she knew. She knew. If she knows how to do simple math, she knew. ugh, I have some names I want to call him, but then I'll get stricken by YouTube, so I won't. All right, next question. Well, didn't you tell her that you could raise the money? That's part of what I was doing. Was that why you were involved? Yeah, because when she had the idea for the business and I took a very basic look at the business model for ballet companies and realized that starting just a nonprofit and doing a startup itself alone, taking the little bit I knew from Charleston, it was just not sustained, particularly kind of the size of her plan. So I called a merger acquisition strategy to align the ballet with revenue companies, including a dancewear company that the ballet could actually be used to help sell the dancewear. I'd figure out how to combine for profits that could then also help raise capital for the ballet. Have you ever run a nonprofit before? Yes, I have. Which one? Wounded Warrior Corp. I founded a nonprofit for wounded warriors. For what? Wounded warriors. So your title in the ballet company was what? If I remember right, I was CEO. And I was only intended to do that until the ballet got launched, though the path we were on was to, with the launch in, I just asked your role, and you were CEO? Yeah, correct, CEO. Doesn't it seem like he took over the ballet? Not that he was just helping her finance the ballet. He tried to do all this other stuff. Like he took her plan and completely changed it and made it into something else. So who knows if that's even what she wanted by the time he finished with it. And he's CEO. When you founded this other not for profit for wounded warriors, essentially, did you actually run it? I ran it on the side. Yeah, it was a small nonprofit. How much did it raise? We didn't raise a whole lot of capital because that wasn't the intent. The intent was to create economic development, to create jobs, to hire vets. And so, I'd say predominantly, the money came through either myself or people that were involved in my company with the purposes of creating basically almost like a real estate development company or a job development company. It was helping create projects that could sustain themselves that had a focus on hiring vets. So, sort of economic development, you might say. The biggest budget that company ever had was how much? 1 million a year. And that was all from, we probably raised over a million that year, but most of that was actually from one large investor who's also a big investor in my projects, my companies. And what was your role? Of that one, I stayed a CEO for most of it. The stock that you sold, the TM Technology stock, did Ashley's mother buy any of that stuff? Yeah, I think she did buy because we were closing up the sale of any TM Technology stock. We were finishing up the technology, we were getting it ready to go to market, and I'd have to go back and look. But she might have been one of the few that bought some TM Technologies stock. I could look, but that was just a guess. How much did she pay for the stock? I don't remember, 5 or 10,000 maybe. So, how did Ashley specifically know what you were investing? I'm sorry, say again? How did Ashley specifically know what you personally were investing in the ballet company? We would talk about it. She knew what Ashley, until she got pregnant, was with me 24/7. That's another thing that perpetrators of A do is that they want you around their radius 24/7. You're not allowed to leave their site. You're not allowed to have fun without them. You're not allowed to go anywhere without them. You're not allowed, I speak from experience, guys. You're not allowed to talk to other people of the same gender, the same sex. You're not allowed to have any friends of the same gender. Of your spouse, or obviously, is what I'm saying. Like, not of yourself, the same gender of your spouse. Um, yeah, so you're not allowed to have friends who are members of the opposite sex, is what I was trying to say, but I did not say it so eloquently. all of these things 24/7, being around that person, always checking in with them, making sure that they are dependent on you, making sure that, if they don't text you within a short period of time, they get angry because they're always trying to keep tabs on you. So I'm not totally surprised that they were around each other 24/7. That might have been his doing. I shouldn't have drawn that. But that didn't look right. But I just wanted to reiterate the 24/7 there. All right, so there was probably, unless in text messages, the only time we text message was when we were apart. Otherwise, I worked from home. She was with me 24/7. Minimally, when I had to go downtown to an office and work, she would come down there with me later after she got up. So she was with me all the time. This is a very codependent relationship, it seems, or controlling. Maybe he made her come to the office. Maybe he insisted that her waking hours were spent with him. I'm surprised he didn't make her get up with him and go to work with him at the beginning of the day. Anyways, once we started the ballet, until it got crazy and she got pregnant, she was with me 24/7, and most of the things I was doing, she was very, very much a part of, like paying for visas. She would get emails. She knew what was going on. So you could do pretty simple math. And we talked about how the ballet was beginning to strain our finances, and I did not want to sell stock like I was selling it way under value. And the ballet company failed when? It didn't fail. It was torpedoed on October 25th, when Ashley began attacking it. So it failed after she left for Florida? No, it did not fail. It was 2 weeks from actually all of my effort where I managed, including owning to Ashley people who liked the ballet, including a lawyer who was offices were next door. He gets he does not get to the point. It's very annoying. Offices next door that were ready to have probably the wealthiest people in Charleston to a major fundraiser at one of the most notable houses in downtown Charleston that was going to be 2 weekends after October 25th, when Ashley decided to hijack the Facebook page and create a massive social media outburst. And it scared, these are very wealthy, very affluent people in downtown Charleston. And then also the Post and Courier gets involved, and it turned into a nightmare 2 weeks before it would have been completely funded for the entire deal. So everything I put together and all the money I'd spent and all the time I'd spent, all the brain hemorrhage we went through in our marriage and our family for Ashley's ballet, and including a joint venture, which again, this meant nothing to me until I kind of began meeting people, but it was actually going to be launched as Complexions, which is Complexions Dance of New York. Probably again, speaking as if I knew this in advance, Complexions Dance is probably one of the foremost contemporary dance companies in the world, and Desmond is one of the best dancers in the world, and they were going to joint venture with us. So we were 2 weeks away from announcing Complexions American National Ballet. Ashley would have been famous. She would have been famous beyond her wildest dreams. Again, this is like he did this for her. He would have made her famous because of all of this that he's done for her. I roll. You had the most successful men in downtown Charleston willing to back the ballet, and in one fell swoop, she hijacks the social media, which is still up. So, as of yesterday, American National Ballet's Facebook was still up, and she began attacking Beth Bogusch, who she disagreed with for letting some dancers go. Again, who is Beth Bogusch? She's who Ashley and I agree to bring in. She was introduced through a mutual friend. She came and sat at our house. Ashley met her. Again, in my limited ability to understand a lot of dynamics, they looked like they were perfect because Beth had come from the industry. She was from New York. She had built was very much a part of building Alvin Ailey, which is a very famous dance company in New York. And so it looked like there was, at the beginning, of a mentor protege relationship between Ashley and Beth. The challenge was, it was, and I didn't understand it until later, how different the two of them were. Beth was hardcore New York, and Ashley was very much about the underlings like herself, the two tall dancers. And the problem was that a lot of the dancers, once, and again, this is pure amateur talking, but this is just understanding the dynamics of what happened, was that complexions was they came to the deal because of Beth, but they also came to the deal because they thought the original concept was great, including the use of commercial companies sort of in a social conscious relationship between the for-profits working with the nonprofits, and so complexions was coming in sort of a joint venture deal. They were going to take a percentage of dancewear company. They were going to lend their brand name to the dancewear company, which would have made it famous. It would be released and distributed throughout the country through, kind of satellites of American National Ballet. 2 weeks before this announcement of the joint venture, having some of the biggest names in New York in dance, down to one of the most elite houses in South Carolina and I'd say, some of the most wealthiest people in South Carolina, that she, because of Beth, again, with complexions, releasing a handful of dancers, most of them who were not paid, most of the dancers who were released were actually being paid with dance shoes. They were all offered contracts to stay and dance and practice with the company, so the dancers that were released were also given the opportunity to work out and practice with the most famous dancers in the world, something they never in their entire life would have had the opportunity to do, a few of them, very few of them. All that had been put together. I'd spent an enormous amount of my time while I was also in the middle of raising money for companies, and Ashley hijacked, even after promising she would take it down. She never did, and she left it up. And because of the amount of negative press, the beginnings of just her saying all these negative things about Beth Bogish. What did she say about Beth Bogish? Why don't you go to Facebook and read them? You can do it right now if you want to go online. She basically just kind of ranted about the whole thing. Basically, what did she say? It kind of, again, I haven't looked at it, basically, and again, I was in the middle and I could see both sides. What? You're so wishy-washy. What kind of an answer was that? I'm asking what Ashley said about Beth on the Facebook page you said was so offensive. That was part of the establishment, that Beth was destroying the ballet, that Beth was destroying what the original creation was, which I don't agree with. As much as I appreciate just to paraphrase, Beth and Ashley had a disagreement about the direction of the ballet, and Ashley took it public, is what you're saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. They disagreed. Ashley knew in advance dancers were going to be released. So in an email between Ashley and Beth, Beth is telling Ashley about the pending joint venture with Complexions, which Ashley knew about, and that there was a fundraiser coming up. So because of a disagreement about how the dancers were released, Ashley decided to kill the entire ballet, and because of the social media press. As soon as she attacked on social media and began basically going after Beth Bogish, and again, not necessarily do I agree with everything Beth did, but I definitely don't agree with what Ashley did because she also put all of the other dancers out of business. The entire ballet was 2 weeks from me walking away. My intent was, going back to part of the original question, was as CEO, my intent was after September 18th I had set everything up. He set everything up. He did all of this. Maybe this wasn't what she wanted. Maybe he took control of the business that she wanted and she didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I don't know, but it seems to me he took control of everything, including being the CEO of her ballet. Anyways, we had people that could come in and start running the ballet. Complexion's CEO was going to come in and run the ballet or be part of it. I was going to get back to my normal life and to be and to my wife, and to my marriage, and to my daughters, and to my pregnant wife. Instead, on the day the ballet launched, September 18th, she abandoned us, or she left the house, knowing I had 40 dancers to pay for. Then, on October 25th, 2 weeks before a major fundraiser, she torpedoed it with social media by saying she was no longer involved. Question? That's the question. By saying she was no longer involved. Answer. She was very involved, and she was working with she could have been as involved as she wanted to be. I'm still confused as to why her and this Beth person quashed the whole deal. Her anger at this Beth person. Whatever. Like, I don't understand. I still don't get it. My question is, she posted a note from the founder that simply said, I want to publicly state that I disavow my support. Right, she did that. And that's what you're saying led to the downfall of the entity. Do you want to read the rest of it? Why don't you go read the entire social media blitz? That's one sentence out of an entire tirade. It's what, a 6-paragraph statement where she simply said, I'm not involved and I don't agree with the changes that have been made. She said all that and a lot more, and contact Beth Bogish, but what she did intentionally was torpedo, hijack the social media, hijack the Facebook, and so that brought the news in, and then because she now owned Facebook, she had all these people in the industry listening to it and attacking the ballet. Okay, for what reason? Okay. Because she disagreed with Beth releasing a handful of dancers who were actually going to then continue to dance with the ballet all 2 weeks before I was ready to walk away and have my life back. See how it's all about him. It's all about him. He was just going to do this one thing, this nice little thing for her, and then he was going to walk away and have his life back. But no, he was so inconvenienced this whole time. And then, yeah, she just takes that Ashley. Question. Does her DV petition, is it correct when it says you own assault rifles? I have the same AR-15 that she has 2 of. Do you have any shotguns? I have a 12 gauge. I haven't shot it in 10 years. Do you have a 50 caliber machine gun? A machine gun? No, I do not. Have you ever had one? Never. Before you were married to Ashley, did you have any psychological treatment? I never had psychological treatment and never had a need for it. Did you ever hit the dog at any other time besides the time that you've described? She says I kicked the dog, but I don't remember that. Again, our dogs, our animals, are treated like part of the family, so I will say, her characterization of the animals is completely out of context and completely way over exaggerated. Do you have any background in chemistry? A background in chemistry like in college? Do you have any expertise in chemistry? No, I don't. When she was staying at her mother's, did she ask you to come from South Carolina to Florida? What do you mean? During the hurricane in September, did she ask you to come to Florida or did you come on your own? No, I couldn't get a hold of her and the storm turned up towards Sarasota and it just I was watching it closely. My question is not about the trajectory of the storm. My question is, did she ask you to come to Florida when you came to Florida in September, or did you come on your own? No, I came on my own because she was not answering the phone very much. Maybe she was seeing your anger and the way you controlled and manipulated things, and maybe she didn't want to talk to you. Maybe she was putting the puzzle together that you are an ABUSER. Maybe she figured that out and didn't want to answer her calls so much. Maybe she didn't want to have him around so much. Maybe that's part of the reason why she wanted to go to Florida and be with her mom. I don't know. What do you guys think? It's not unheard of. It might have been her plan to get away from him, to try to get away and go to Florida. During your arguments in the past, besides shooting a firearm, throwing a firearm, and punching a hole in the wall, did you ever throw things besides the gun? I don't ever remember throwing anything. No, I don't remember. The only thing I remember one time standing at the sink and there's a glass in the sink and it broke when I put it in there too hard when I put it down too hard. Other than that, I've never thrown anything. What does that mean? He threw it then into the sink out of anger because he was at the question was, did you ever throw anything besides these other things? His answer, when I put the glass down too hard in the sink, no, no, no. You threw that glass in the sink. You purposely threw it in the sink. But he's saying, no, I just put it down too hard. But that wasn't the question. Have you ever put a glass down too hard in the sink? Sure, yeah. Lots of people can and things break in the sink. But that has nothing to do with throwing things. Like I would never correlate the two in context unless I threw a glass in the sink and it broke. So you were in an argument and you put a glass down too hard and it broke. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. When was that? I don't remember specifically. Was it before or after June 20th? I'm sorry, was it before or after June 15th? I honestly couldn't tell you. Is it documented anywhere? Not that I know of. You asked me, so I'm telling you. No, other than that, I've never been a person who threw things, and I don't remember outside of those arguments with Ashley about my daughter ever. Were you having an argument about Eva the day you put the glass down too hard? Probably. The only times we argued, with the exception of a couple arguments about the ballet, was about Eva and or Sydney, but mostly Eva. Okay. It was just getting old. Did you ever tell her you were going to bring her back to South Carolina by force? Absolutely not. That is a joke. Again, red flags. He says absolutely not, followed up by that is a joke. So he said it in a joking way. He said he was going to bring her back by force. Jokingly. Ha ha ha. So funny. Did you say it as a joke? I never said it. I said it's twisted that she even said that. Okay, did you ever give her medications without her knowledge? No. Did you ever tell her you were going to give her medications without her knowledge? No. Did you ever prevent her from leaving the master bedroom or bathroom? No. Lie. I never stopped her. So he's saying that all these things are lies. Okay. Did you ever grab her when you were angry? I never touched Ashley ever. Never and ever. So he's really trying to hone that in. Did you ever hold her to keep her from leaving you? Or to keep her from leaving as you're talking to her, or something along those lines. That happens all the time. I have never touched Ashley, and the closest thing to even touching her was one time she put her finger in my face and I moved it out of the way, but I've never touched Ashley. I've never held Ashley down. I've never stood in the doorway blocking her. In fact, it was the opposite. And if I felt like I was standing in her way, I moved out of her way out of pure respect for women. Oh, brother, he has so much respect for women that he would just move right out of her way. This to me means now I know he was lying. I mean, he's definitely been physical because out of pure respect for women, I would never. Okay, buddy. Okay. You're saying that she said the event with the gun was on June 15th. She says on June 20th, which would be a different date, you punched the dog, Sully. Is that correct? I don't know. I don't even remember punching the dog, Sully, outside of that argument. Remember pushing the dog off the bed when he was trying to jump on the bed, but that's completely different. So he pushed the dog off the bed too, not just punching the dog in the face and knocking it unconscious. He's also thrown the cat multiple times. I was trying to keep him off the bed because he started getting in a bad habit of getting on the bed. She says on June 1st, you kicked Sully. Let's see, June 1st? Uh-huh. I never kicked the dog, and that's kind of funny. If you go back to these 340 pages of texts on June 1st and 2nd and 3rd and every day thereafter, There was nothing but love, hearts, and kisses, and so not a single evidence of a single argument of any of those days, and nothing but hearts, kisses, and love. Oh, brother. Is that what you're looking at? Yeah, I'm looking at the same thing you have, which is the black book. Is that just the same document you've given to me? Yes, sir, that's correct. Can I see that binder for a second? Sure, it's by date. It's by month, if you want to look at it. And he hands him the document. It has a number of dividers in it. What is that? Those are just breaking up the months. Okay, they're actual dividers with numbers on them. It's just random. These should all be by date. The majority of them are in September and October because, again, Ashley with me most of the time. Do you see all the different pictures that she attached to her her DV petition of all the holes in the wall? We looked through them in part 1. Say it one more time. Did you see all the pages she attached of the different holes in the wall? Yeah, there's 2 holes. There's the where I threw the gun, and there was did you actually, I think there's 1, 2, 3 holes in the wall. No, there's the one from the closet was actually the third because it broke the outside of the. There's 2 that were patched, and there's 1 with a hole. There's only there's the one in the kitchen, and then there's the one in the closet, but that was the inside of the closet and kind of broke the outside of the closet. Let me show you the pictures I'm talking about. If you look at the DV petition, Exhibit A, page 1, there's a picture of a plastered hole in the wall, which looks like Ashley's hand, right? Yes, it's Ashley's hand with the wedding ring on it, and so it's, is that's the outside. That's the closet right there, and there's the outside closet. The second page is the inside of the closet. Yeah, that's the inside of the closet above the ADT. So that's where you hit the wall. Yes, page 3 of A. That's the kitchen. That's where the gun hit. Okay. Did it create a hole in the wall such that it had to be repaired? Yeah, it had to be repaired. I wouldn't say it made a hole, but it definitely, in an awkward place, needed to be patched. Did you ever say things to Ashley like, if I can't have you, no one can, quote unquote? Damn. No, not that I can ever remember saying anything like that in that context. In what context? There is no context. Did you ever tell her you could make people disappear? Absolutely not. Did you ever tell her that you thought Renee had died for some reason other than heart issues? When she first died, I didn't know all the medications that she was on at all, and I had asked, I didn't know anything, so I looked them up and asked a few people, and this is while we were waiting on the autopsy. Probably just, I speculated that, I mean, immediately. They were pretty sure that it was a heart attack, but they were doing an autopsy. Again, I was just speculating that somehow her doctor had overdosed her, contradic- contraindicated. I don't know how to say that word. I was just totally guessing. So he thought that they overdosed her. You thought she might have been poisoned or overdosed. Absolutely not. You just said overdosed. That's poisoning. Okay, let me rephrase it and choose my words better. I was concerned that some of the medications the doctor had her on, because I didn't know she was on all of them, including weight loss. She was on one for like high blood pressure. I didn't know about those. I didn't know that she was taking that many medications early on, right after she died. And I think and I find out that she's on these medications. Of course, my mind wandered, and I wondered if they somehow were part of why she might have died. But the autopsy report came back that she had exactly the same thing that her father had, which was 75% heart blockage and some genetic defect with her heart where it artificially enlarged. In Exhibit A, page 5 of Ashley's her DV petition, again, a bullet hole in is that a bullet hole in your ceiling? Actually, no, I think that one from looking at it is where there was a rack hanging. Page 6. Is that your scope rifle? Yeah, that's a 300 Win Mag. It's a target rifle, not a hunting rifle. I just did it for fun and maybe shot it, taking it out shooting maybe since I had it maybe once, twice. Did you punch Sully or did you not punch Sully? Well, when he jumped on me in my lap, literally he lunged up in my lap. I mean, I definitely hit him. I wouldn't say I punched him like, a person would another person. I just reacted to get him off in a sharp, I was wearing shorts, sharp claws, and I'm frustrated beyond imagination. And he literally, 100 pound, almost 100 pound dog lunges in my lap, and you're saying you pushed him off. I definitely punched him as part of it. I definitely overreacted. I'm sorry? Say again? I couldn't hear what you said. I mean, I definitely admit I hit him, but it was to get the dog off me. How did you hit him? Did you hit him by pushing him or did you hit him by punching him? No, I mean, I definitely punched him. He punched a dog. Definitely. He's admitting it in a deposition. Hold on. More stupid. All right. Sorry about that. It should be done by now. All right. So basically, he admits he punched the dog. So anyone who wants to say that Ashley was the perpetrator in this relationship, I bring you to this statement here. No, I mean, I definitely punched him. I don't remember. I just remember my reaction was that in the middle of an extreme emotional moment, the dog just literally lunged into my lap with kind of sharp, long nails that needed to be trimmed, and I definitely forcefully punched him off. But that's the only time I ever remember actually hitting the dog or anything even close to it. I know in other allegations, whether it was in this one or another one of her other spins on the story, she said I hit the dog so hard I knocked him out. I think that was in one of her other things that she's filed, and that is an utter lie, completely made up, fabricated lie. There is nothing that I have done that I have not fully admitted to. Well, he didn't want to admit to a lot of things so far in this depot, and it took a lot to get him to admit some things. So, who's being truthful here? I don't know. Did she exaggerate it? I don't know. But I know I don't believe him very much. I don't trust his word very well because, as you can see, he's been so combative and um, not really wanting to answer questions for good reason because I do believe that he is violent, especially after the things he has admitted to. So, if those are the things he has admitted to, what are the things he hasn't? That's what I'd like to know because I don't know. I have a feeling there's a lot more to it that we don't know. All right, question that you have not fully admitted to. Yeah, like with DSS, I told them everything, told them about the gun right off the bat. In fact, even after I told them about the gun, they still came back to put the kids back in the house. That was DSS. DSS findings were the violence and drinking was unfounded, and they were putting, after I had spoken to DSS and they knew everything, had interviewed the girls, interviewed me, they still knew that I was still outside of that moment, was still capable of making good decisions as I have most of my life. When you unfounded, you mean unfounded as it relates to the children? Let's go back to the allegations again. Listen to my question. I'm not asking you to regurgitate what her allegations were. Okay? When you say the allegations were unfounded, you mean unfounded as it relates to Eva and Sydney? Unfounded as it relates to the allegations which were not even Sydney. It was about the house. Okay. And they said the house, is safe enough for two 15-year-old girls, almost 16-year-old girls, to move back into. So DSS found the house safe and the home safe, and my ability to be a good father was safe. Oh, I'm not so sure they actually said that much, but okay. I doubt they said his ability to be a good father is right on the money there. Okay, you filed an emergency motion for temporary custody. Do you remember that? I remember filing. I mean, I don't know what they're called, but yeah, we filed a motion for temporary custody. You swore under oath that all these allegations were true and correct. I'm sorry, say it again. You swore under oath when you signed it that all the allegations were true and correct. I don't know which one you're referring to because there were several motions. I'm talking about the emergency motion for temporary custody. I mean, seriously, that's what he just asked you about. Council's got it. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember what it said, but yeah. You what? I don't remember particularly all the things that were said in there, but that's not my question. You signed it and said, under penalty of perjury, that everything that you said in there was true, correct? Yes. Paragraph 5, where it says that she asked you to obtain a vasectomy reversal surgery. It was your idea. What we just went through in the text messages, correct? You brought it up in the text messages saying, that's true. Ashley requested that. I'm just reading it. The child subject to this action was conceived after the mother, who was obsessed with having a baby after months of the marriage, true, requested that the father obtain a vasectomy reversal surgery in 2017. Agreed. The parties learned that the mother was pregnant in July 2017. Agreed. That's consistent with everything I've said. Ashley wanted to have the baby. I consented to it because she wanted it. I always wanted kids, but at that point I was not. I was very concerned about how much stress was in our life. But yes, I agreed to it. But it was Ashley. Listen to my question because it's not anything that you're saying right now. I'm losing my patience with you. That's what that means. Okay. My question is you were the one who first brought up a reversal of your vasectomy in the text that we went through, correct? Maybe in the one slice of the one text, but not overall, period. Seriously, buddy? Seriously? He reminds me so much of my ex-husband, the way he answers questions, and he's difficult to talk to. The reason that Ashley moved in with her mother in Lakewood Ranch was what? I was spending all of my time. Normally, I work mostly out of the house. We were now like bringing in investor money in some of the parallel companies. I was running ragged, working on all my companies that I was involved with, plus her ballet or our ballet. Yeah, the one you took over. And once she got pregnant, Ashley, from the beginning, when I met her, would sometimes, when she would get out of the car, she would get sort of gray out, and I would have to hold her. And that can happen maybe once or at least every other week that Ashley would start graying out. What the does that mean? She had said something like that had happened growing up, which is also reflected in her medical notes in South Carolina. Once she got pregnant, starting with what I believed was in early July, when she got so nauseated and her fever like jumped up real high, and I'm the one that begged her to go to the hospital. I'm just asking why she moved in with her mother. Oh my god, I snorted. I this guy. All I was asking was the mother. You just told me a rambling rant about Something other than what I was asking, sir. He says, I'm telling you, it's part of the nausea. I'm opening the ballet, so that means I can't be home during the day. It's in the text messages from that time period. She's saying, honey, I'm at home and I'm nauseated. I'm sick. I can't get out of bed. Stop for a second. The reason she moved in with her mother was because you were too busy to help her physically and she was too sick and required attention. Yeah, she needed more care than I could provide because I'm opening her ballet or our ballet. Again, he's done that twice now. Okay. So she didn't abandon you and the ballet company. She physically couldn't handle it. Fair? Like, words matter, buddy. Physically couldn't handle it versus she just took off and abandoned you and the company. I wouldn't 100% agree. She wasn't abandoned from the ballet, but she definitely limited her interaction when she could have had more. But she continued to work with the ballet and she showed that she could continue to work and didn't learn this until after the fact is she continued emailing and trying to run an entire program with the Wilmington Ballet. So even though she acted like, she couldn't be involved, she was later, in fact, relatively recently found all of her emails of her the whole time talking to Wilmington Ballet. Okay, whatever, guy. Moving on. She went to Florida because she was so sick, correct? Yeah, because she was nauseated and she needed help, and we agreed her mom could do that. Period. Like, end. You don't have to keep going. The intent was that after the ballet launched on September 18th, that she already had a doctor's appointment on the 20th, is that I would launch the ballet on the 18th. I would drive back down to Florida on the 19th and pick her up. Her medical notes with her doctor, including with her mom's approval, talking about using Phenergan, and that's actually in her doctor's notes, where I called her doctor and spoke to her about her extreme nausea. All the text messages from the time she got pregnant, particularly the time she was in Florida, talking about nausea, 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 nausea. I'm so sick. I'm so nauseated, which she was, and yet she was also still emailing back and forth with the Wilmington Ballet, unbeknownst to me until later. Well, then she didn't abandon the ballet, buddy. What are you talking about? Do you have those emails? Because that's proof that she didn't abandon the ballet. Not with me, but I can get them for you. Do you have them somewhere? They're just online with her email. By the way, I was going to cut this into two more parts, but at this point, I'm already so far along. I'm just going to keep reading. It's probably not that much longer, so kind of glad that I just kept going. I was trying to stop earlier at a certain spot, and the topic was just continuing on, and I couldn't stop. So, anyways, all right. So he doesn't have the papers with me. Do you have them somewhere? They're just online with her email. Say again, they're online with her email account. How do you have access to them? Because I set the account up. I set the website up, and I'm the administrator of the website. They were sent through the ballet server, correct? Right. It's just a Google server. Yeah, to answer your question, our agreed reason for going to stay in Florida was 100% that she couldn't. There was a lot of stress in the house that wasn't helping. It was just it just made sense for her to go to Florida because of all of these factors, correct? It made perfect sense, and because I was running ragged trying to open the ballet, and the day after the ballet opened, I was literally going to run back to Florida again, pick her up, and then she had a scheduled doctor's appointment on the Friday, the 20th. Okay. Again, he's talking about all the things he does for her. He's running the ballet and he's driving back and forth and picking her up and taking to her doctor's appointments and all these wonderful things that he's just running ragged for her to try to open the ballet and stuff. Yeah. Okay. And that's in the medical notes. The fact that I called her doctor concerned about nausea, nausea, nausea. Did I read that? And said that he would prescribe the Phenergan because when I took Ashley to Florida, it was 7 hours or 8 hours of pure seasickness where my heart hurt for her. She was so nauseated. He probably means car sickness because I don't think they took the sea to get back to North Carolina. Ms. Murphy says, Mark, how are we doing on time? I've got a 2:30. Mr. Sessom says, I'm glad you asked. Not well. We had scheduled this just for 2 hours. Right. We've gone way over. Yes, I need to get going, so we need to. So we'll continue it, and I think I have what I need for the DV. So I appreciate the latitude in that regard. In terms of the custody issues, I'll continue it, and we'll reconvene once we know when the hearings are fair. Ms. Murphy says, sounds good. Okay, okay. Will you reserve any questions you have for then? I reserved my questions and the deposition was concluded, but I believe we have more, don't we? Yes, here. Okay. Um, that's just her certifying it. I thought there was more to this. Okay. Well, I guess they ended it there because Miss Stephanie Murphy had stuff to do. So they didn't quite finish the whole conversation. But yeah. So I thought it went a lot longer than that. Sorry. I thought there was more to it. Yeah. So I love how he points out, well, we've gone way over because your client won't answer any of my questions and he just rambles on for ages, which is pretty much what he did. So now that we've read the deposition, what do you guys think? I still have some questions about the whole, custody and the tea poisoning and everything like that. But I don't discount her. I don't discredit her. And I don't just say, well, it's not true because Doug said that a lawyer said that, they were mad about it. The judge was mad about it or whatever. Like, I'm not going to take Doug's word for it for sure. So I still think we need to look more into this Tivana stuff if there is more information on it. But up next, I can't quite think of what my next episode is. I have them all planned out, but I didn't look. Hold on one sec. Sorry. So in the next episodes, we're going to go over the motion to dismiss and the battered spouse uh, syndrome, defense that they wanted to use for this case. However, the judge denies it. We know going into the trial that the judge had denied it, but we're going to go over their motions regarding that. So we shall see what happens then. I know I want to get us caught up because there's still stuff going on in this case with appeals, and I want to get us caught up so we know what's going. So we're all on the same page. Anyways, so please hit the like button on your way out because it will help the algorithms, and also I would really appreciate it just as much as I appreciate you guys watching. So thank you guys for being here. Let me know what you think after reading through Doug's deposition, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Bye now.